Welcome to season 5 of the Camp Owners Podcast. Kelly and I had a great conversation with Travis Allison, the co-founder of Go Camp Pro, where he discussed artificial intelligence and its impact on the camp industry. It was a great discussion. Hope you enjoy it.
This is the Camp Owners Podcast from Go Camp Pro, exploring best practices and issues that professionals in the private camp industry face every day. You can find our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. And by the way, this theme song, 100% generated by AI. It's a little cheesy, but definitely on brand for this episode. We'll give you a little taste of it, and we'll put the whole thing at the end of this episode. Enjoy!
Staffing to safety, programs that grow, sharing wisdom and knowledge to help your camp glow. Come learn with us, it's time to grow. Kelly and Howie, let's start the show.
Celebrating 30 years, CampBrain camp management software not only provides a great tool and caring support for your best ever workdays, but a delightful registration experience for parents. Discover what more than 1,800 camps know and how you can love your software too. Visit campbrain.com/ownerspod.
Activity schedules are the backbone of every camper's experience. If there's a staffing change, it's really hard to find a person that knows your camp and the nuance your schedule takes. Come check out Camptivities to learn more about our scheduling tools designed for camps by camp people. Find out more at camptivities.com.
Welcome to the Camp Owners Podcast, a space for camp owners to talk about the unique aspects of camp ownership and get inspired by each other. We are going to sit down with camp industry experts, leaders, and fellow camp owners to hear how the camp dream transpired for them, learn from each other, and discuss some of the biggest issues in the private camp industry. Hello, everyone. My name is Howie Grossinger, the co-owner of Camp Robin Hood. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Shuna. I am the co-owner and executive director of Hidden Pines Ranch Day Camp located in Stillwater, Minnesota. If you're looking to find and subscribe to the Camp Owners Podcast, you can either find us online at gocamp.pro/ownerspod or by searching for us in your favorite podcast app. Finally, if you're listening to this and think it would be useful for other camp owners or aspiring camp owners in your circle, please feel free to send them a note to listen. Hello, Howie.
Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. I did it. Don't you feel like when you talk to people after camp, you're like, we did it. We survived.
I know.
We came out on the other side.
I know. How many different phrases like that have you shared with colleagues over the last few weeks? It's crazy.
Oh yeah, a lot.
I
It's
know.
like I've emerged. Like, oh, okay, I'm back in my life again. I've emerged out of it and coming up for air, and yeah, it's crazy. But
Actually, one of the future topics should, how do we reacquaint ourselves with our family and friends after a summer? I think that would be a great conversation because I think people are looking to how to manage their personal lives when they say end of April, early May, whatever the other side looks, we'll see you then. So what do you do? And yeah, I'm in the midst of doing all of that, as I'm sure all of our friends listening are, as they reemerge out of, I'm sure, an action-packed, successful summer, we hope. Kelly, this is season 5.
wow, look at us. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
5. This is it. We are beginning the 5th season of the Camp Owners Podcast, and we're so excited. If you're a longtime listener, we appreciate it. If you're brand new to this, we hope we can provide you with great content. But generally speaking, Kelly, how was this summer?
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that this year. It
Yeah.
was really good. It was a great summer. I just think camp is one of the most humbling jobs ever. Like, I think even though you go into it and, no one's perfect but every year, like new ideas and all these things you're going to do and try, and so many things go well and go right. But every year there are things like, oh, I could have done that better, or I would like to handle it differently. Or I don't know. It's just it was good. So overall, very good, but always lots of learning and things to work on. But summer with tons of returning staff, and they make your job so much easier. And to watch them is great. And my son was a counselor for the first time, which I felt so proud. That was a moment for me. So it was great. So overall, really good. But again, always humbling. And if you want to grow and be better, how was your summer?
Yeah, I think that's a really good word, humbling. I think it amazes me that no matter how long any of us do this, we're pulled onto skills and ways of doing things that we maybe not have anticipated using, and surprising ourselves. Even if you're a seasoned camp owner director, it's quite amazing. I also was benefited from a really high return rate of staff, and really felt the benefit of that in a significant way. And we sent away back healthy and happy campers, which is the goal, of course. But I think generally super satisfied with the summer, and we hope that all of our listeners feel the same way. And we look forward to, over the course of the season, exploring the challenges and successes of the past summer, and looking forward to the next one, and hope the show continues to provide that kind of resource to everyone. So pretty excited to kick things off. And I would say that it's really humbling and exciting to say that we have our two sponsors returning once again this summer. And huge thanks to Camp Brain, the OG sponsor of this podcast, but also Camptivities, who's been there almost as long and just so dedicated and supportive. And we appreciate the teams at Camp Brain and Camptivities, and of course urge everyone listening to explore what they have to offer, because they're pretty awesome. Not only what they deliver, but the people who deliver it are pretty awesome. So pretty pumped about that. So we've got a really good topic today, Kelly. Super excited about this. I think the way that I can best phrase this, and we talked about this before we went on air, is just the kicking off of season 5 with this topic of innovation. I think we're all interested in innovation, in every single form of innovation. And I think we're all eager as camp owners to find new systems, new approaches, new ways to make things easier or lighter for us, if it's possible. And today we're getting off our season with a great talk with a person who we've come to recognize as someone who can bring all this great thinking and future thinking to the table. So we're really happy to have Travis Allison with us. For those of you who aren't aware of Travis and what he's done and the road he's had in camp and the journey he's been on, he's not only a camp consultant, but he's the co-founder of Go Camp Pro. He's our boss. He's the guy who put us together and connected this wonderful working relationship, but also this friendship together. So Travis, you are like the Match.com of camping right now. So congratulations to you in the most wholesome way. We're both married, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Kelly, I just thought I'd say that for the sake of saying it. But I know that Travis has become this wonderful resource to the entire camp industry. He's brought so many people together, and he brought us back for a 5th season. Glad he renewed our contract. So thank you for that, Travis. And Travis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me back for the Camp Owners Pod. Things like contract and boss make it sound like I'm paying you to do this. I need everybody to know how much time Howie and Kelly are volunteering for all of you to get good stuff from people around the industry. And I respect the work that they're doing so much, and I still can't afford to pay them. But I'm grateful that they do all this for their listeners. So I'm grateful to be here.
Well, we're grateful for all you do, and the support you give us to have this platform to just chat. And I think I speak for Kelly, and please, Kelly, jump in here. I think it's made us better operators, just all the people we've talked to. It's been incredible, eh?
Oh, 100%. I'm so grateful for the people we've met and conversations. And every time I leave a podcast, I feel like I have another idea or thing to think about it. I'm super grateful for it. So it's time well spent. What do they say? You always get more out of it than you put into it. And I think that holds.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I agree.
And my favorite camp friend from it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I threw in the first Canadian A of the season. So I just I wanted that to be in there, and just looking for some Minnesota stuff too in a moment. But, so Travis, we're talking AI, and we're talking artificial intelligence, its application to the camp world, and the things you're seeing, have seen, and just giving us a sense of where you're at with all this and what you want to share. I would like to say, as a kickoff note, that if you heard our fancy intro theme music today, I'm not sure we're going to use it for every show, but that was an AI generated theme song, which we'll talk more about.
Awesome.
And it's the platform that used it, but that was fun, and feel fancy that we have that, Kelly. I don't know about you, but that's kind of cool.
Big leagues, year 5.
Yeah, here we go. So Travis, give us some thoughts. AI, camp, what does it all mean? What are your thoughts on this? What have you seen? And let's kick it off with that.
Perfect. Thank you. So I want to start in a couple of places. what I'm going to talk about mostly today, and share the work I've done. It has been a year and a half of being eyeballs deep in AI stuff and how it's going to affect us. And the stuff that I'm going to say today is a lot of the very positive things, because I think in general, AI will have a net positive effect on our work as camp leaders and camp directors, certainly as camp owners. I believe that there's a great risk that it could have a net negative effect on our families, that people who can afford to send their kids to summer camp, they're the ones whose jobs are probably most at risk. And this is not that show, but I need to acknowledge it, that we have to be thinking and discussing that. And I think that is a worthy follow-up topic at some point, looking at kind of where work and families are going in the future. But I just want to say I'm not going to be that today, but I know that it's out there, and I think it's an incredibly important discussion.
Yeah, I think that every aspect of our lives are being influenced by this in some way, shape, or form. And I think by you framing the beginnings of this discussion in that way, I think it's really important because we don't know the impact it'll have in families' abilities to continue to do what they do to help us do what we do. But I do agree the things we're seeing behind the curtain that helps us do our things as pros definitely is encouraging, and there's some real possibilities. So I'm eager to hear more about that for sure.
Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
I'm excited after our Go Camp Pro podcasters brainstorm. And when we were doing some questions, one, it was like, how much are you using AI? I was on the very bottom of that spectrum. I don't at least intentionally use it a lot. So I'm looking for things. And Travis just grabbed me when he was talking about ideas for us to just make our jobs easier to get out where Howie and I want to be, which is with the people. And so I am all ears, Travis. Change me, make me a change camp owner to use AI more. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Perfect. So let me start with a couple of definitions that I think are important for people who haven't, like honestly, while you have been at camp this season, everybody, I have been in AI, and I have been looking at it and studying it for probably 18 months before that. So interrupt me when I get linguy, and we'll go from there. Two things that I think are important to understand AI, two definitions. One is a prompt and the other is a persona. So a prompt at the moment is the best way that we communicate and get an AI to do something. We prompt it to do something. Most of the AIs that we know are called generative AIs, meaning they generate something based on what we ask for. That active asking is called a prompt. So that is going to change soon, because we now have AIs that we can actually talk to, and AIs that have reasoning built in, that they can ask us more questions. And so the interaction of us typing or voice recording something to them, that's going to change soon. But for now, a prompt is how we ask them to do things. And then the other thing that I want folks to take home early is the idea of a persona. And a persona is a set of instructions that we can give to a generative AI. ChatGPT is the most famous of it. It's not the one that I use the most, but it's certainly the one that's most famous. A prompt is a set of instructions that we can give it and give it every time to make it think in a certain way. So I have a prompt or a persona called the Camp Director Whisperer. And it has been programmed for when Go Camp Pro wants to talk to camp directors. I put in the basics of what I want to say, and it'll write stuff for me in that language using the points that I've given it, but in such a way that it's fast and efficient for camp directors, that it's not big chunky paragraphs of things, that it'll, remind me to put calls to action at the top of things, and just honor how overworked and overwhelmed camp directors can be a lot of the time. And so we can do the same thing with parents. You could have a North Toronto day camp parent whisperer, where you're putting in some of the sort of geographical, psychological, cultural understandings of what your parents are, and then you can ask it to help you talk better to them. Same with your neighborhood, Kelly. Everybody who's listening, you could give it some real specifics to it, and you can make it an expert on that kind of parent and how you talk to it. So that's a persona. I have them for all sorts of different things depending on the project, but that is such a time saver and can make the AI act a little differently than just simply typing in, help me write a letter to my parents because to camp parents to tell them that their first payment's due. It'll do that on its own, but if I give it the other instructions, it'll format things to make parents more responsive. And the next step in this is going to be that it will study those parents and tell you parent by parent how to write to them. And then you give it permission, it'll write individually. So the world is coming to, and I cannot advocate this enough. Everybody who's listening should be talking to your registration software companies and asking them when AI is coming, and more specifically, when an API is coming that allows outside things to talk to your camp database, so that some of these CampMinder doesn't, all those things don't have to build in AI. They can use an AI from outside, but still allow it to talk to your information. So please ask them those questions. But the future is coming where you will know parent by parent when and how to talk to each one to be most effective at getting them to do the things you need or understand the things that you need.
Yeah, I find that amazing. And I think that whether it's a local day camp outreach based on different neighborhoods, or if you're going across provincial or state lines or internationally, you're going to be able to talk not only in language, but in culturally acceptable phrases or terms that I think can relate, if it's applicable, in this example of the persona. It's really fascinating stuff, Travis. So you're saying that while you can do some of this in ChatGPT, which is the most well-known things, when you gave the example of those various breakdowns of AI platforms or personas per se, how do you create those? Like, where are those created? There's an AI generative kind of platform we find to do those or create those. Like, what would be the mechanics or the starting point for a camp operator to get started in the most basic ways for that?
Perfect. I'm using AI to teach me how to use AI.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to something like ChatGPT and I'm saying straight out, I would just type in, what do I need to ask you to give me a persona that would make you the world's best, most well-known, having been in the industry for 25 years, at talking to parents about how camp worries them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll tell me all the things, and then I can add it and change it. And so it'll output a thing like, here's the persona that would do that you could start every answer with. A lot of the different generative AIs now, you can just save that as a space. Like, I just click into my parent whisperer thing, and that's general parents. And with clients, I build a specific one to their families. Like, here's how we talk to your families in North Chicago or outside of Tempe, Arizona, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine, as an extension of that, it gives you an opportunity from a staff recruitment point of view too, is how you're getting new staff or interested people. If you're going to a particular college campus or if you're going to other areas, the expansion of that is we're marketing to staff as much as we're marketing to parents these days. And that kind of application could really make a difference in finding the right phrasing, the right language, the right hooks to have those conversations. And I would imagine once you create those personas, then you're not reinventing the wheel every time. It's an add-on to what's already been generated. Is that kind of the build here too, as part of this?
Yeah. Yeah. The persona is the background knowledge of it.
Yeah.
And you can tune those. So I keep using Whisper because it's funny to me that I've built different whispers. I've built a Gen Z whisperer. So here's how we communicate to staff to get them to show up for their interviews, to have them prepare themselves properly for their interviews. Here are texts that we can write that have been proven to be effective with Gen Z that will get them to read your email that gives them the details about your upcoming interview or
Yeah.
interview.
Well, today my Gen Z whisperer is my daughter Jordana, who's the young director here. So she looks at me and says, "No, Dad, we're not saying it that way on that communication." So get to move away from that a little bit, maybe, Kelly. Who knows?
I know my eyes go like this a little bit.
I just saw that too, Kelly. It's like, your eyes are getting wider, Kelly.
I know. What I think about it, so what's going through my head a little bit too is, does it still feel authentic and genuine, Travis? I think when
Totally
you're
fair.
using that tool, that's what I think about a little bit. Is it feel like more of a teaching tool? And does it, when you use that stuff, does it still feel like authentic and genuine? Or does it feel a little bit less, like more what it is, I guess, like produced or not? I don't know. They said, but that was a big,
Generic even.
yeah,
Yeah.
generic.
It definitely does that. And I am not saying take everything it does and just copy and paste it. These are always starting points. One of the things that I hope that the Camp Owners Pod audience takes away is that AI gives us a lot of shortcuts to do the boring, just drudgery of being a camp director, camp owner, and allows us to freedom to then have the time to speak to people, to spend time with parents who are scared. Like the amount of time that a camp director is sort of wasting on answering questions that you've already told the answer to parents, that you're trying to write a thoughtful email, be like, okay, I'm trying to be patient and just point them to the thing I already told them. Like I can automate that now, but if I can then free up time for me, and this is back to an old example when Beth and I are directing, if that frees me up to spend an hour on a phone or on a Zoom call with a mom who desperately wants to send her kid to camp but is terrified, I'm going to do that because now I have time. I'm not going to be frustrated. I'm not going to be like, all right, I'm answering that question for the third time. It's like, I know that this person wants their kid to be with us, to spend time with us at camp. And I can invest in that because it's not in the back of my head. I was like, now in the back of my head, I don't have 45 other parent emails that I need to get to in the next 24 hours. All the drafts are written. I just go through, approve it, make sure the wording is my own, and I send those off.
Celebrating 30 years, CampBrain camp management software not only provides a great tool and caring support for your best ever workdays, but a delightful registration experience for parents. They take pride in building long-lasting relationships through their incredible support and care they show to each client. And don't take our word for it. Cassandra Parker, Director of Campers and Families at KE Camp, shares, "We love customer service at CampBrain because everyone's always happy and helpful. There's never a time that we are waiting for answers. CampBrain is not only focused on your current needs, but for the next 30 summers and beyond. They're continually refining their solution to deliver exactly what camp owners need now and will next, from SMS texting to integrated payment solutions and more. Discover what more than 1,800 camps know and how you can love your software too. Visit campbrain.com/ownerspod.
So give me for those kind of emails, would you use like the ChatGPT, or would you'd use ChatGPT to make the persona to create the email responses?
So here's what I do. ChatGPT works great, and ChatGPT has actually had some big improvements in the last week that I don't even quite understand how it's going to affect us. But by adding in reasoning, it's going to be even more helpful. But what I personally do is I do subscribe to a lot of the big generative AI things just because I want to get to know them and I want to see and test them for what are best for camps. I would say if you're just getting started in AI, you want to look for a tool called perplexity.ai. And it is, I think it costs $200 a year. It will use all of the other AIs that you hear of, ChatGPT and Claude and Mistral, and there's ones that aren't talked about as much, but it can use any of them. You can turn it on, but it's a great interface, and it has become my Google. I don't use Google anymore. I use Perplexity. I've changed the search engine in my browser to Perplexity, and it will spit out a whole bunch of answers. Perplexity is great because it shows you its answers. So it'll give you the summation and it gives you all of the links to the videos and things it's built to do an answer, versus ChatGPT. Certainly in the past, like it's just like it gives you an answer. You're like, I hope you're right. But this one, it's like you can look up all of the footnotes for everything it does.
Yeah.
So that's what first got me doing it. But Perplexity also allows me to create collections. And so those are my collections. Every one of those collections have that first persona instruction. That's how I have the Gen Z communicator. That's how I have a specialist on volunteer boards. All of those are saved in there. So that's a tool that I would say people start with. And you can then save these You can have just the answer anything section, but you can go to the, this is where I want to feed it and give it really specific information about our parents, our staff, etc.
It's really interesting, Kelly, to your point about authenticity and being generic. By no means am I extensively using AI tools, but I did take a chance on using the AI tool in the middle of the summer when I was rewriting a script for a big program at camp. And it didn't take much to get it where I wanted it to be without me rewriting it. And I'll give you the example. We were celebrating a 30th anniversary of a big program that we've been running. And it was a big deal, and we put a lot of effort into it. And when I looked back in the content that we used to launch the program in 1994, the original script of explaining the program was in language that I wouldn't use in 2024. And I copy and pasted that content into ChatGPT, and I asked it to make it more kid-friendly. And that's all I did. And then what it came out was this like eye-opening, wonderful version of a 30-year-old script written by our crew back then into something that required some further tweaking by ourselves, but it saved us a whole bunch of time, saved me. And to Travis's point, that's how, as I think about rewriting old emails, or I look at some of the content that we used in marketing even 10 years ago that I really like, I'm at that point where I want to put it into some of these tools and say, I need a 2024 version, or whatever language I would use to prompt it to give me an updated version of that. And I was really super happy with what I did with the example I gave you. And that's just my limited use over the course of, man, I've got a week to get this program organized. I don't have time to rewrite this whole thing. And I used it, and it was awesome. So that was just one example. And I'm sure people are doing a lot of similar things, but I had that personal kind of aha moment, like, this was really cool. I just asked it to do this. And so that's my sort of mini experience with using the tool.
That's cool, Howie. That's seems like such a great way to use it. I like that, how you make that more kid friendly.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Travis, too, when you were talking about just emails and responses to families, do you see camp software ever including more AI in what it does for camps, or is that something that's happening? Or I don't know, I just was curious about that, like if there'd ever be features in the camp software, because at least that's for us where we house a lot of our emails and correspondence and templates. So do you think that's happening or will happen?
It absolutely will happen. Some of the kind of legacy registration software is going to get pushed by new people to put it in. Every piece of software that you use every day will either be AI or be written by AI in the next 2 years. And it'll include it as part of the function, and it'll be able to step in and offer you suggestions. This email reads as cold and demanding. Are you frustrated with this staff member? And you can say, yes, I am. That, can I rewrite this in a way that sounds more supportive and would hopefully give you the same result? Yes, it's all going to be there.
Can I have an AI microphone of things I want to say to staff, and then it just makes it sound
Yes.
better? I need a headpiece. This is what I really want to say to this person right now. How can I sound a little bit less frustrated and happy?
Totally. So this is the other thing that's happening because of AI, and I'm getting excited because you're giving me fun examples to play with. But this is one of those things that's happening. One of the things that's going to happen starting now, it's happening right now, is that it's going to be easy for anyone to write software. And that means that people will write software who've never written software before. And this is the thing I hope people take away from this is put a special pen and a special pad of Post-its on your desk and write down things that are annoying to do. And I bet you 95% of those AI could do right now. If you could have somebody work through the automations with you, set it up for you, it can take that off your plate. So that's one of them, Kelly, is you could build software that is just a web page on your phone that you can say a thing, and you could do it full head of steam, like just I'm walking it off exactly at this point and I'm talking into my phone, and then it will rewrite something based on your camp philosophy and how you've told staff you're going to deal with problems with them, and it'll give you the script. Like that is easy software. Writing that software would take half an hour.
There's and also there would be incredible staff training opportunities with that too, as we are at a conference in 2024 and 25, and we loved a speaker and their content, and you were able to take the notes that you made about that and how you think that with which the content that was presented to you could be applicable in your setting or to the delivery of your unique staff makeup, and then generate, well, this is how you could do it at your camp, or this is how you could put it in your voice or whatever, because always there's such incredible content that we're all getting in the industry, and we always think about like, I want to make it my own. I love these three things from these three. How do I synthesize them into what I want to deliver to my staff at various levels of training? That's not too far. That's exactly what you're talking about,
It
isn't it,
is.
Travis?
Yes, 100%. Not
Yeah.
only that, you could take, here's the lesson and here's how it applies to us. We can write it in a language that we know our staff will respond to, and then we directly apply it. So here are three examples for our camp. It's using our camp dictionary, our slang, our examples, our frustrations, and we'll apply it directly to, I don't, like Wednesday at 3:30, you got a text from a parent that they're going to be 4 hours late picking up your kid. And you have to talk staff through that situation. And so here's the framework that you learned from Michael Brandwein. Here's how you say this thing has happened to us, and here's how Michael's would deal with that. And if I can jump off of that, because I saw something just 2 days ago that has and honestly, I've been so deep in this. It's rare I get surprised. I usually know when something's coming, or that I like, okay, I can start to feel that this is about to change. The one that I saw this week, there's a thing called Google Notebook LM, and it's a free to use thing. It looks kind of computer programmy, and it's kind of their testing space. And you can upload anything to it. So a PDF. The example that I saw this week that got me thinking was a guy who writing about AI, just wrote a big book that people are talking about, and he fed this thing part of his book. And then he said, okay, and explain it back to me. And what the AI did instantly is it created a podcast of two people talking to each other, completely conversational, about this guy's book and all the lessons from it. So if you feed it your staff manual and any other written down lessons about being a staff member, and you feed it to them, and then you give your staff a podcast, you're like, here, if you're like me, Travis Allison, I have ADHD, so I have struggled reading and comprehending and just sitting down to focus on a staff manual. I can now listen to it while I'm doing whatever. I'm walking my dog. I can hear, not just here are all the points in a wooden robotic voice. It is, here's two people discussing it, asking each other questions, and all that. Like, you can do that today.
Kelly, I'm just going to say we're out of a job.
No, you're not out of a job. You are able to do the parts of this job that you like. This gives you the opportunity to have staff who are well educated, that don't require as much hand-holding, and that you can then support. You can be there for the pats on the back. You can be there for all those things that you wish you could do, instead of being stuck getting a fluorescent tan in the camp office. You can be there for all those things. You can be there for your staff, your campers, and your parents.
Yeah. That whole application of how that got translated into a conversation is wild.
I'll post the link, and so you can go to the show notes for the Camp Owners Pod and listen to that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and that's just recent. You just stumbled upon that recently?
2 days ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a guy who is famous in the AI industry. His name is Ethan Malik. He was a big researcher. He's definitely been one of the leaders in the AI industry. He doesn't work for Google, but he's like, I heard the Google Notebook thing changed, and I put my book into it, and this is what the output was. And he's blown away by this giant leap in the ability to teach us effectively. Because the conversation is much more interesting than one person just reading his book, than the AI reading his book to you. The conversation catches people's attention and keeps it. And even the AI can ask some questions that a reader or a listener might ask. So it becomes a substitute for the reader.
That's very cool. I think to Kelly's point earlier is as these things get more sophisticated and dare I say more mainstream usable kind of thing, or people are jumping to this, just trying to find the sweet spot from not giving our clientele any impressions that we're moving away from what has been the bread and butter of building on all of our operations, and
The
that is
caring part
that
of our work.
the caring part, the personal attention. Kelly and I have talked a lot about, at the end of the day, it's all about the customer service and the relationship and all that stuff, and being very conscious of like, when have we kind of crossed over into something that isn't us anymore kind of thing. And it sounds that these tools have the ability to allow you to find your space in that in a way that, you know, can still allow you, it doesn't have to take over everything. Because people, you hear this a lot, Kelly. I don't know if you, I mean, it's taking over and it's all this, and so much of our lives are sort of jetting into this space that, oh, here goes camp, you know, they're on the bandwagon now kind of thing. And it's internally, I can get it. I would just be very sensitive to, I think, Kelly's point earlier in our discussion about, oh, we just don't want to give it away that this is kind of now our world kind of thing. I don't know, Kelly, if you have any thoughts on that, or Travis, but I
Uh,
think we'd have to be conscious of that.
I think like the big takeaway from what Travis has said so far that I think about is how can I use it more in those ways of the things that bog me down or irritating,
Yeah.
or like Travis said when we talked earlier about this topic. I mean, just the little things for me of some payroll stuff, or like hours for staff of when staff like are take a sick day or their sick time or they're come late for a dentist appointment. I don't know, just any of those little things that are like irritating as heck to deal with, especially in the summer. Like this is the last thing I want to be doing right now. Or in the off season of, yeah, the things that maybe aren't also in my wheelhouse initially, or they're not my gifts of things of how can I make this easier? Or how can I do that? So I think that for me is a takeaway of just leaning into it more for those things that aren't as natural for me to make your job easier. So I think that's the big thing. I just need to use it more. I just need to lean in and explore more. And because I think there are so many helpful tools. But yeah, I still want to do the people part, or the things that I'm good at, and that warm people caring piece. But yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to use it. I don't think I am, but I do want to know how other camp people are.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I don't know if this is going to help Kelly, but one of the stumbling blocks for adoption at this point is that you have to figure out how to effectively communicate with AI. Like you have to break down all the steps and teach it all of those steps. Well, in fall of 2024, you no longer have to do that. You just say to the AI, on my computer, watch how I do this thing. So watch how I solve this problem for a parent who's overpaid, and I have to refund them. I have to write them an email, and I have to double check 3 days later that the payment actually went back to them. So the AI just watches me do that. When it happens the next time, I get it to do it, and I watch how it does it to make sure that it got all the processes right. And then I just check in on it every once in a while, make sure it is doing the right thing. But you can also, you're getting really at, we're so close to this, and I know I'm so scared of overwhelming everybody, but you can have an AI watch an AI to say if it's doing the thing properly. You could have one overarching AI that watches all these other little process AIs and send you a warning when this doesn't look like it's working right. That sounds overwhelming. I get it. And in some ways, I try to be the person who sees how all of these things in the world and business, et cetera, how it can apply to camps and can make us better at things. And I always worry that I come across as being too keen and being just too overwhelmed. I'm so worried that I overwhelm people with the thing. So I try to find specific examples, but
Yeah, and I think that I think that future thinking like that is really important, and I think our industry historically hasn't been necessarily as forward thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the next 10 years and stuff? And I know you've been a big proponent. We've had discussions about what does the industry look like 10 years from now? All these things related to the operations and facility and even just the way we do business. And that's really important. So I think there's super value in you putting these things out there. And that's why we wanted you to kick off season 5 with this topic, because we really want to challenge the owners that listen and the camp pros that listen to this to start really thinking about this. We've talked a lot about the tradition of camp and all that stuff, and that's great. And how do we find, because that's all we hear that so much in the industry, how do we maintain all the wonderful things of tradition, but take advantage of all these tools to keep us going in the right direction? And I think that's really great. I just think of just even simple things, Travis, and I'm such a novice at this, but if I wanted to revamp the language, the content of my website, I could take my existing content, feed it into something, and ask it to do a couple more things, and poof, like that, what took me like a whole afternoon of writing 2 pages on my webpage, I could have 25 pages done really quickly if I wanted to update it. And then just, whether it's I'm updating my website or other people, like, I just think of just those simple things that I personally have had success doing that allows me to update even my website in a very quick way. And I'm sure you'd blow us away with even a better tool that could do it than that. But I'm just thinking of if you just wanted to get started on this, and it's this entry level experience, which I'm currently going through. I'm just thinking that could be a really cool application of getting to know how the AI can work for you in the best possible way. That's all.
And that AI can learn your language and your writing style and just the Hidden Pines way of referring to things
Yeah.
and apply that to, we have a new program and we don't know how to write about it. Study how we've written stuff before. There's always a concern that when we commit stuff to a website, we don't use our own language. You get sort of stiff, but you can have it train it on your emails and or your texts. And again, this is always first draft stuff. This is not copy paste straight to your website. This is write a first draft. But like, I'm with you that writing a page of website stuff, getting across all my points would have taken me days.
Yeah.
And I can have a draft. I could have an outline and then write from the outline, or I could have a first draft in 4 minutes. I could have an outline that I could change. I could reorder. I could ask it to focus on one of those things and then have a first draft right away.
All right. So Travis, do you have other examples like Howie's of other camp pros that are using AI effectively or in some creative, great ways?
Well, this is not something that many of us are getting into for good reasons. It's before now, it's taken a lot of learning just to figure out how to make it do the things you want it to. So it's just starting. I have a little WhatsApp group with 25 camp directors on it called the AI in Camp Working Group. And so we're just sharing ideas, and we have lists of prompts that people have used in their camp business I was reading through them this week because I wanted to post something to this group. And I'm amazed at how much different the prompts are in the last, because we first started this 18 months ago. The group has really taken off this fall, but the people contributing to this library of prompts the prompts are gotten better. Like, it's more specific, more asking it to do really more interesting things. So Kelly, I'm better off telling you things I've seen in the business world that we could apply today. And so I got 2 examples, one of which I've given another example already that I'm excited about the potential, which is the podcast from a conversational podcast from your staff handbook. You could do the same for your parent handbook. Like, please do those things right now. They need to be this year's projects, and that just make it. Communicating with parents has gotten so hard, effectively communicating with parents, because parents are so overwhelmed. And that is the first thing I would be doing with AI if I was camp directing today. How do we communicate more effectively? How do we write emails and email subject lines that we know will get them to open more of those emails and pay attention to them? I have this, it's not really an acronym. Beth wouldn't say it's an acronym because it's not a real word, but my mnemonic is we want parents to open, read, absorb, understand, absorb, and act on our messages. If our messages are great, then we get a fifth thing, which is share our messages with their friends. But we need to do our job well. We need parents to open, read, absorb, and act on our messages. And so that's what I would be doing right now is training bots. We're helping other camp clients with it right now, giving them a bot to talk to their specific parents and using that camp's language, but with the research based on how do we get families to open more emails. Where I hope the registration databases are coming, or they allow this communication with other software, is that we I hope another thing that happens right away is we start studying how parents react to our emails so that we can know for Minnesota parents, they react to this kind of subject line, they open it, and Toronto or Ottawa parents react, like you can get really specific to that, but we're learning every time. And that all the research of going through, like GoCamp Pro has sent over 1 million emails to camp people. And going through that, they have only basic analytics in our email package, but having an AI go through all those emails and telling us how to write emails that are more effective for getting camp people to read them and to take these, like we give away so much for free, the podcast, all of that. Please use this stuff, but we need to learn how to get that message across better. And I think we're good at it, but we're not great, and we could always be better. And that's the thing I would be doing as a camp director too. And if I give you one more example that I wrote down thinking about this, a thing that we're going to start to practice right now, it's in a couple of pieces, but very shortly it'll just happen. So let me give you the just happen picture of it. For every Zoom call, let me apply it to camps directly. For every Zoom call that you do with a parent, Zoom will automatically generate a summary or a transcript of that. You can take that transcript and give it to an AI and have it pull out the words and phrases that got a reaction from that parent. So every call that you're talking to a parent, you're getting better at talking to parents. And sometimes on a call, when I'm on a riff, I'm talking to somebody, there's a great phrase. I was like, oh, that's a good one. I got to remember that. And I never do. It'll pick those up and it'll just drop into a Google Doc. Here's phrases that got parents to say, oh, or here's phrases that you've never used before. You might want to consider doing that. So let's do that with parents. Let's do that with staff. Let's have it just collect all those good things. I'm much better on my feet than reading from a script. So when I'm on my feet, I often say things that I was like, oh, I should file that away. And I don't. And it'll help us learn from every call we make. And so that is available right now, that it will take the transcript from Zoom. It'll hand it off to, let's call it ChatGPT. It doesn't have to be that. It'll process it, and then it'll email me the next day. You had 3 calls yesterday. Here are 5 things that got a reaction, or ways of describing things that are more succinct than you used before. Like all of that we could do today.
Yeah, my mind on that one goes to staff interviews
Yep.
and staff. I happen to do some Zoom staff group sessions, like an information session about being part of our team.
Mhm.
And I've over some time have come up with a script and even my own just style of doing it. For me, that would be really helpful to know, like what grabbed a young person's attention to say potentially, hey, this might be a place I want to pursue, or things of that kind. I could see a real application, Kelly, for something that I'm doing in exactly what Travis described. Like I'd want more insight into the things I'm saying, that beyond my wonderful dad jokes that could grab them. But yeah, I love that. That's a great example. Thanks for sharing that one. I'm thinking a lot about that one right now.
If you do a lot of Zoom interviews, it can study your interviews and find the phrasing of a very specific question that worked to get more than a one-word answer. Like we ask them variations on the same question all the time. This is the one that worked. Now it's an example of one, so you want to keep trying it. You want it to keep studying. Asking that question got them to be more honest. Asking that question got them this way, got them to be more creative or open, or whatever it is your goals are. You can task it by examining your transcript to find those things.
Wow. And will you repeat again for listeners, Travis, so you're turning on the AI chat component in your Zoom, and then how are you getting it pulled out of there? Will you repeat that for them?
Well, pulling out and putting into a different spot is complicated. It requires some automation using, there's a website called make.com, or one that people may have known if they are on the nerdy side of the camp world, called Zapier, that moves information from one place to another using those APIs that I've mentioned, the application programming interface, so that the two applications can talk to each other. And so you can use something like that. Like the end of a call, Zoom emails me both a transcript and a summary of every email anyway. So now I just have Zapier watch my email for when that Zoom summary or that Zoom transcript comes in. It's looking for those very words, Zoom transcript. It pulls it back to ChatGPT, feeds it into one specific persona that I've set up in ChatGPT, and it does that kind of evaluation. And then it goes back to Zapier or make.com, and then it sends me the summary or the lesson or the thing that worked or the do all that. And then so it's sending that information back to me, but it's also sending that information to a Google Sheet where I have taught it some sort of grading system of some kind, like rate it between 1 and 5 at how long the response was, or how different the response sounded than other 5 people that I've asked this question to. Make that a 5. If it's always the same, why do you want to come back to camp? Well, I don't know. Everybody knows that's like standard answers you hear all the
Yeah.
time. You're like, okay, how can I word that? Because I want to know the answer, but I want to not be bored by your answer. And so how do I ask it better?
And you don't need all that automation. I mean, you could copy and paste into ChatGPT too if you get the transcript, correct? Is
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
also?
You
Yeah.
can.
So,
I just don't want you to have to spend time, because as
right.
soon as you do 6 interviews a week, I mean, that's tiny for lots of people. Some people are
Yes.
doing 20, 30 interviews a week.
Yeah.
As soon as you do that and you have all those transcripts in Gmail, at no time are you actually going to take the action of actually putting them one at a
True.
time into ChatGPT and then feeding the output into a Google Sheet. So
Interesting.
this automation using AI is stuff we're working on. That's our big project for this year. How can we help people create the things that tie this all together so that you get a text on the next day? It's like, here's your top question from yesterday. And then you get an email summary of all of it. And then we just get better every day, and interviews get easier. We get better staff, and we get more time to play games and sing songs every summer.
Very
I'm,
cool. Gets the,
I'm
gets the
down for
wheels
that.
turning. Gets the wheels turning. I like it. Awesome, Travis. Every year, it's the same thing. Lots of hours spent working on the daily schedules, only for there to be mistakes, missed activities, and lots of stress. Why is it so difficult? There's got to be a better way. And there is Camptivities, an activity scheduler made specifically for camps. Group scheduling or camper scheduling, we've got you covered. Different day schedules, no problem. Auto scheduling, elective scheduling, batch scheduling, schedule the way that works for your camp. With over 60 reports, you'll be able to see the data easily. Don't wait until the new year. Now's the time to find a better way to schedule and save 15% for the first year. Make activity scheduling easier, less stressful, and more efficient. We'd love to show you the next big thing in camp, so don't wait. Start the onboarding process now when you have the time. Let us help you get away from your desk and back out in camp. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat. Well, we are going to move on to our final part of our podcast. We have a new feature, year 5. So we used to do sharing your favorite podcast, thing that was inspiring you. We are going to Brene Brown the end of our podcast, and we're going to do rapid fire with our guests. So you're being surprised by this. So get campy. And we have 5 questions for you, Travis. And you're just going to answer them like the first thing that pops into your head. Are you prepared?
Excellent. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Howie, am I gonna ask all of them, or are we gonna go back and forth? How do you want to do
No,
this?
I think you should do this one, and
I'm gonna just rapid them.
you
Okay.
could totally be, yeah, you're the game show host,
Okay.
and let's do it.
Okay. Okay, I like it. All right, Travis, first rapid fire question. What is your favorite camp meal?
Chicken Parmesan.
Ooh, fancy. All right, next one. If you could lead any program area at a summer camp, what would it be?
High ropes.
Great. And you're quick at these. All right, s'mores, burnt or golden brown?
No s'mores. I have this theory that I inherited from a camp friend of mine it was a counselor of mine when I was growing up. And she said that everybody in the world has a different maximum number of marshmallows that they can eat in a lifetime.
Oh
And the
God.
closer you get to your personal max number, the worse marshmallows taste. And I am in the last 90%. And
Oh,
I love sugar, I love chocolate, but yeah, I'm approaching the end of my marshmallow ability.
Oh, I feel that way about cheap beer. Anyway, moving on. Travis and from college. Anyway, Travis, would you say, Travis, as a young child, were you a homesick camper or like a peace out parents kind of camper?
That is actually a little more complicated answer. I was not a homesick camper. I always like to try new things. But for me, until I got tall, I was bullied a lot. And so camp was my safe place. I had 6 days a year where I felt safe. And it wasn't that I was sad to leave my parents and my sister and cat and dog, but I liked getting to camp because people that I looked up to were incredibly good to me.
Okay, good. And last question, as a camp pro, or when you were in the trenches, were you more like an in the office on the phone or out in amidst the action kind of person?
Probably in the office, but less so as I got older. Beth and I did a few things very specifically to spend more time with staff, to spend more time with campers. I don't know if people on this show will know, but if you're listening to the other podcasts, you know that Beth's camp name at camp was Topaz, and mine was Zoic, and so they always refer to it as Topazoic. And so we set aside for a couple summers, we set aside an hour in the afternoon for staff and an hour in the afternoon for kids that they could book with us and play.
nice.
But that was a
Love that.
lot of conscious work. And to be to anybody who was there and happens to listen to the show, we had to pull out of it a lot of times. We had to say, I'm sorry, we can't a lot of times, but we still
Yeah.
tried.
I like that.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Nice work, Travis. We learned lots of things about you
That was-
really quickly.
Yeah, we did. That was
Right on.
great. Thank you for bringing that, Kelly. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I
I look forward
agree.
to I look
Yeah,
forward
I'm looking
to
forward to hearing people's answers to that.
Yeah, exactly. Travis, this was really great. An awesome way to get people thinking, and possibly with the time that we have now that it'll be aired early in the planning of next season, that perhaps people can explore these tools and think about these things in making their operations, but also their personal lives a little more efficient, and have some time for the other stuff that we've talked about. So that's great. A lot of the tools that were mentioned will be in the show notes. Yes, Travis.
I would like to say thank you for having me and thank you for putting up with me, my brain exploding and sharing these things. As I'm very excited and I think there's great opportunities. One thing I'll announce to your audience before I've put it out on any of the other podcasts, anybody can go to campbot.org and see a bunch of little AIs that I have built for the building blocks of being a camp director. It includes how to talk to your staff, or good staff retention ideas is one, a front page of your website evaluation tool. Right now there's 5, and I'm putting about 1 or 2 of those a week. So if you go to campbot.org, you'll see those. We have always felt that Go Camp Pro is like the enrichment program for camp directors. And so all these building block things, we want you to just have them. Like, if the next one that's going to go in there will probably be, how do I build a camp from scratch?
Right.
And
Amazing.
there's a staff retention in there that has pulled one in there that has pulled from every one of our podcasts about talking about staff and how to get them return. And you just give me some ideas to help me to get my staff to return, and it'll give it to you. So that's campbot.org.
Well, thank you for that. That's great. And I definitely encourage people to look at that, and I will be too. So that's amazing. Travis, as always, if people want to connect with you and tap into all these ideas and much more, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, if I can help your camp set up some of these automations and get some of this stuff off your plate so you can play games and sing songs, please reach out to me, Travis at gocamp.pro.
Amazing.
Travis at gocamp.pro. Thank you so much for having me on Camp Owners.
Oh, Travis, this has been wonderful. Kelly, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
The best way is Kelly with a Y at hiddenpinesranch.com.
Amazing. And for me, it's Howie at camprobinhood.ca. Please feel free to reach out. We've got a long season ahead of us. We're super excited. We're happy to be back. We want to thank Camp Brain and Camptivities once again for being on board and supporting all of our efforts this season. Please don't forget that you can find all of our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. You can find the resources that we mentioned in this episode and lots of good stuff, not only from our show, but all the other great Go Camp Pro podcasts. We encourage you to check them out. We hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for listening. Kelly, see you on the next one. Look forward to it.
Welcome to the show. It's the Camp Owners Podcast with Kelly and Howie, where the learning lasts. Big ideas, insights, and more to explore. For camp owners everywhere, we've got so much in store. From staffing to safety, programs that grow, sharing wisdom and knowledge to help your camp glow. Come learn with us, it's time to grow. With Kelly and Howie, let's start the show. Safety programs that grow, sharing wisdom and knowledge to help your camp glow. Come learn with us, it's time to grow. With Kelly and Howie, let's start the show.